Well, welcome to another episode of the Sale and Scale Marketing Podcast, specifically our agency spotlight segment. I'm Dmitry Smirnov, your guest, and we have Jaron Rabman, our co-host. And today we're thrilled to have Chris Bacard, the co-founder of Firelight Digital, with us. Okay, so Chris brings over 15 years of experience as a camera operator, editor, and video producer with a unique cinematic approach to marketing videos. Right, so his expertise includes aerial drone cinematography, and this is a topic that we're going to be talking about today. But drone cinematography has revolutionized the way that businesses market their services, and specific industries especially. And he's worked on everything from concerts, commercials, narrative films, and even a stint as an onstage cameraman for Jungle Jack Hanna. So welcome, Chris. We're excited to talk to you a little bit today. And, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I appreciate you guys extending the offer to come on here and talk with you a little bit about, everything that I'm passionate about. So this is great. Thanks again.
All right. So let's kind of first start with a little bit of a background on your guys' company. Tell us a little bit more about what you do, how it got started. That's always a topic of interest for us. We love to know what pushes entrepreneurs to start their businesses, right? So tell us a little bit more.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty cool story. It's a story of friendship, really. My partner, whose name is also Chris, him and I go back to pretty much our entire childhood. I mean, we met first grade in elementary school, okay. And we grew up together, and we've been friends, goodness, well over 40 years now. And we just kind of started after college. We both had kind of had separate but similar paths. Chris had gone to the School of Visual Arts in New York City to focus on filmmaking and editing. And then I was at the same time going to a university here in New Jersey, William Patterson University, which has one of the best communication departments in the state. And so, both cut our teeth doing film and with communications, obviously, I did a lot more than just film. Pretty much got a whole spectrum of experience doing just about every part of media that you can think of, including even journalism and radio production. So once we were out of college, we started kind of just making some shorts. Actually, when Chris was still in college, I starred in a bunch of his films as an actor, because that's one of the things I also do, is I'm also an actor. But, you got to fill the gaps with as many different things as you can, because any kind of creative life has its ups and downs. So through the ensuing years after college, I started freelancing as a shooter, as a videographer, doing all different kinds of things. Like you mentioned, concerts, all kinds of live events, a lot of weddings. Things like the Jack Hanna show that we talked about. That was a great experience. Doing film. And then, over the course of 10 years or so, getting a lot of experience doing that. And then, Chris had started his own business, Digital Memories, which is an event-based videography studio. Mm-hmm. And I started freelancing with him, doing that stuff, and got a lot of experience working with him. And we developed a really good working relationship. And then we kind of sat down 2016 or so and said, hey, what if we just kind of started something together where we're both partners, we both do all the work, and we both share all the responsibility, obviously the profits, the investment, it's all that kind of stuff. So that's where Firelight Digital was born. And, over the course of the past few years, we've slowly grown, kind of like the little engine that could, had a rough patch, as most people did during COVID. And I pivoted to networking after about a year of trying to get back to where I was pre-pandemic. I built our company on cold calling, which obviously is grueling, and was able to get us some pretty good clients just from that. I mean, obviously, the payoff is, very slim in comparison to how many calls you actually make. But I'm pretty proud of what I was able to cultivate in terms of a client base. And one of those clients has been a repeat customer, giving us our most frequent business. I mean, we've done
fantastic
5 or 6 jobs for this client, which is a construction and demolition company. and we've
Oh,
done a
very
lot
cool.
of videos for them, all involving the drone, as I'm sure we'll talk about shortly.
Yeah.
And then so now we're doing pretty well. We're diversifying our portfolio, and together we try to just work with as many different types of industries as we can, so we can really have a value across the whole economy, so to speak. Instead of just
Great.
being pigeonholed in one area. And with Firelight Digital, we focus on marketing videos, all different types of things that any kind of a small to medium sized business would need to boost their marketing presence on the web, whether it's for social media, whether it's a web ad, or something as simple as an About Us video on their website. And then we also, still have the other company. So between the two, we kind of stay afloat. And I run Firelight. Chris runs Digital Memories. We both do all the work. And then when we need more shooters, we have a whole roster of freelancers we bring on for bigger jobs. And it works great. So I'm very blessed to be able to make my living with one of my best friends, if not my best friend. So it's been really cool. And we don't let the business cause any problems. We're both very upfront, and just we have this really nice kind of a cultivated shorthand, so then we can work. And when we're on a set, we're on a company's premises, especially, we're just well-oiled machines. We know what we need to do. There's nothing that's going to get in the way. We have our style. We know exactly what the other one needs. He can just look at me. I'm like, yep, I know what you need me to do, or me the same thing.
Fantastic.
So it's a really good working relationship, and it's
Telepathy.
and it's been great.
Right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's almost like a mind meld. Yeah, it's funny. There was even one night. This is going back a couple of years, where we both, without knowing it, had the same dream, which is crazy. So then an ongoing joke after we get together, I'll be like, hey, I'll see you tonight. It's just kind of funny. Hasn't happened since, but for a brief period, we're like, is that going to be a new thing?
Wow. So you guys sound like double trouble.
A little bit. I mean, and plus we're both named Chris, so it's everybody that works with us like, well, I guess that's easy. And for a long time, I was the only one with a beard. So just say, listen, you can just call me, the beard or whatever. But now my partner grew one. And so now we both have beards. And I just recently shaved my head. So now we kind of both have a similar appearance. But this is just for the summer, whereas he's kind of rocking this look all the time.
Okay.
Well,
That's a good kind of an overview.
I got a full disclosure for you. You and I are both graduates of William Patterson. So.
Oh, awesome. Well, that's right. You mentioned that you were from the area. That's great. Yeah. Well, great school. And it's grown so much ever since, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Very cool.
Yeah. I was still part of it. I was still there when it was a very small campus, but I have very fond memories of that place. Great program. Great creative arts programs.
It really does. Yeah. No, it's awesome. And it's convenient. It's 20 minutes from where I grew up, and it was just a really good experience all around. I really took a lot with me from those days. And but just like anything, you really learn on the job, in the field. And that's where you really, when you start cutting your teeth, those skill sets you learn, they definitely come in handy. But I've definitely been a huge proponent of the school of life, where you're just out there.
Absolutely.
You're learning things on the fly. You're learning to be, constantly aware that there's going to be a problem that you're going to have to adapt to. And so that's just kind of how it works. And the better you are at what you do, you have a much better chance of being able to adapt to those problems. Especially with us, because if we're shooting something like a wedding with our sister company, there's no do-overs. You can't say, I didn't get that. Can you do your vows again? It's like, and then when we're out in somebody's facility doing a talking head video for a client, at least then we can say, all right, let's stop. Can we go back and can you say that part again? So it's kind of interesting how we kind of have both sides of it in a way.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. So let's dive into one of the areas that I know that you were mentioning already, and we talked about, which is the drone videography.
Sure.
Right. Now, obviously, this is not for every industry, not for every type of client, but there are definitely some key industries and key company types that would require this service, right? So, let's start off with talking about that. Like who are the people that utilize this type of videography the most?
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, it's definitely going to be construction, demolition, I would say landscape design, any kind of in outdoor industrial type work that
Okay.
has a lot of heavy equipment, especially if there's things that are dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
For example, just to use our demolition client, because it fits perfectly into this, is that they're doing very dangerous stuff, and we can't get in anywhere near there with the ground cameras. I mean, we usually will do both. Like, we'll be on the ground with a camera on a tripod, getting like a nice wide downward view or upwards view. But the drone is where it's at, and that drone is it can get in there, get those details, get in close enough that we can capture what they're doing from a safe distance. And with the cameras on those drones are so good that you can still be 100 feet away from the subject, but it looks like you're right there, because the cameras are so good. And so we've been able to really capture a lot of great stuff with that drone for that particular industry. And then also any kind of a venue that features outdoors as part of
Okay.
whether it's a winery, whether we're going to a place that has apple picking, pumpkin picking. We've done stuff,
Farms. Yeah.
farms. We've done jobs for like a winery and distillery that also has a huge orchard of fruit, whether it's
Oh, wow.
peaches, whether it's
Right.
apples, that we went there with the drone and covered the whole place. So we got this nice overhead shot of just rows and rows and rows of all these little trees, and
Wow.
then we get up there to their main facility where they're doing the distilling, and those kind of panoramic views really
Imagine.
help to sell
Mm-hmm.
a venue for people.
Right.
Mhm.
That's why when we do weddings, I mean, we're always using the drone because all these places are on the water. These venues are very ornate a lot of times. Their exteriors are very grand. And so it lends itself beautifully to getting that nice aerial shot, going over the grounds, and you zoom in and you're right there on the bride and groom, and maybe you pass by them or you pull back and you slowly reveal them. I mean, we did a shot last season, which was great. It was we were doing a wedding at a venue in Liberty State Park in Jersey
Beautiful.
City. And
Yeah.
you got far away, you got the Statue of Liberty, you got New York City skyline in one area, then you got a lot of water kind of all around. And so we did this shot where literally the bride and groom is inside the reception hall and the sweetheart table right by the window. And we told them, turn around and wave out the window. And so we're there with the drone, they're waving,
Oh, wow.
we're close up, and then we slowly pull back away and reveal the venue, reveal the water, reveal the cityscape. And
That's
it was
awesome.
just an awesome goodbye shot for the video for the bride and groom, and they loved it. So those kind of places really are great to use a drone, just to get that other perspective, because you're on the ground.
Mhm.
There's only so much you can see.
Right.
And so any industry that features grounds, that has you're doing again also with the construction demolition, a before and after element. If you're an outdoor venue or you're doing something where you're transforming an environment from one thing to another, a drone is also a great way to capture that and to capture that before and after process. Because like that last project I was mentioning before, the last company that we did some stuff for, the demolition company, we just did a 6-month job for them where we were capturing them taking down this massive office complex with 2 parking structures.
Wow. Oh, wow.
It was a 6-month job. So
Wow.
beginning to end. So we went every other week for 6 months and captured the slow progress, because they're not doing the traditional demolition where you see a building get slowly blown up and it falls. These
Yeah.
buildings, first of all, they're not like skyscrapers. Maybe they're 4, 5, 6 stories, and they're using pretty much old school kind of techniques where they're in there with a crane. They've got these special, cranes with these little, like almost like a jackhammer kind of thing on the front of it, and they're slowly breaking apart the building and bringing the pieces
Top to
down.
bottom.
Yeah, and they're just then taking the debris onto a dump truck, moving it to the other side of the facility, where then they're milling it and they're processing it. So all that stuff takes a lot of time. And so we learned a long time ago when we first started working with this particular client that their projects don't move fast. And they wanted us to come to capture. The first job we did with them was, okay, we're taking down a smokestack in this huge facility. So they're not doing a takedown where it's going to fall. They literally were up with a cherry picker on a smokestack,
piece by piece,
hundreds of feet in the air, and they're literally with little jackhammering all the bricks that are making the whole smokestack, and they're slowly pushing the pieces through the center. It falls down to the base, and that's how they're doing it. So we can go there every day for a week if we needed to. Wow. And you really wouldn't see that much difference in the height of this thing. So we learned, okay, you really can't have us coming here every week because we can't even tell the progress, even with the drone getting in there and seeing them doing it. So we learned, let's space out our trips so then we can really see the progress. And so once we got that down to a routine, because we kind of learned as a trial and error on the fly, because, they're a demolition company. They don't know how things are going to look on a camera. And and that was the first time we've done anything like that. So we learned, okay, this is how this has to go going forward. And now we've got it down to a good routine with that client. So we know, okay, we'll come these dates, we'll figure it out, Sometimes it's last minute. I mean, we've done last minute jobs for them as well that worked out great. And that's another reason that we've kind of been there, Johnny on the spot, because we've been able to come in when they really need us with very little notice at times. And that to me is kind of like a feather in my cap that I'm able to provide that service without notice. I was able to get a guy I got one of our guys who was able to go because we run another job. So that just really adds that value to that relationship. Yeah. And it's been a really great back and forth between us. I'm so really proud of that client. But anyway, yes. Yeah, so those are the kind of things that really lend itself to a drone, just in kind of a long-winded answer.
Well, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you. So, as everybody says, the $40,000 question. How did you go from you went to college for the performing arts and you went to and media, and then of course there was no drones in college back then.
Totally.
Sorry, yeah. I know we're all skirting a little bit of the gray, so I can kind of tell. True. So how did you take that leap? What was the thing where you went aha moment? First of all, how did you get into it? How did you get into drone photography and then decide to be like, this is part of what I want to make part of our core offering, at Firelight?
Yeah, true. I mean, it basically comes from my partner, Chris, utilizing drone with his sister company, Digital Memories, because that was obviously started before Firelight Digital. And he was already instituting the drone, a bigger drone, but instituting that nevertheless. And then, so I started learning how to use it, and then when we decided to start Firelight, we made sure that drone was a huge part of our business in terms of here's a product that we use. We pretty much include it with every job, unless it's a job that it really wouldn't make sense to use it. But we always like to include that as part of our package. Hey, listen, if you want drone, it's here. So we just said, okay, this is a growing sector. Everybody loves the drones. Everybody loves seeing all the different things you can do with it. And it gives us access that we wouldn't otherwise really have. And it lends itself great to a lot of craftsmen too. Like I should have mentioned before, roofers, for example. That's a great clientele. Guys that are up there doing tree work, another business that, although you got to be careful because you can't get too close because they're breaking branches, there's power lines. But that's another business that really can benefit from drone. And we knew that once we were going to start focusing on small to medium-sized companies, that it's a no-brainer to really make sure that we're pushing the drone for a lot of different types of businesses, because it's really where it's
anything
at.
With real estate?
I'm sorry? Yeah, real estate.
Do you ever do real estate photos and videos?
Yeah. I mean, that's the one area too that I've had ongoing relationships with different real estate developers, more higher end properties that can afford to bring on a drone for a couple hours or whatever. Because, as I've learned over the years, most realtors, everything's coming out of their own pocket. They don't get a marketing budget from, Coldwell Banker or Berkshire Hathaway, whoever they're working for.
Some do. But
okay, maybe some do.
But only the top producers, and they can already afford it anyways.
Yeah, that's true. So like a lot of the ones that have expressed interest with us, it's coming out of their pocket. So it's always kind of been around, okay, well, timing has to be right for us to be able to take on that expense. And we're like, okay,
you're in New Jersey,
but
right. So you're in New Jersey. So that tells me you guys, you were saying you were just at Liberty State Park filming. So you've got a lot of paperwork to go through. I'm sure you got a
Oh
stack of
yeah.
that to go through. And then, of course, you've got the FAA right there. You've got Newark International Airport right there. And then you've got New York City right across the water. So I'm sure, there's also the technicality of things that happen just to be certified to
Yeah,
operate a
well,
drone.
there's all that, of course, and just also too, what makes it convenient and easier for us is we can automatically look up a venue ahead of time and know, okay, well, what are the guidelines for that area? What's near? Because if we're in any vicinity of a small airport, obviously a major airport, we know that we're not going to be able to fly. It's just the software embedded in these drones is so sophisticated that
They know.
if you're trying to take off in an area that is in a no-fly zone, for example, it won't even go up. Or if you're currently flying and let's just say for the sake of argument, you didn't do your homework or you know that you're near an area that there is a no-fly zone and you didn't realize you were drifting to that area, which is usually what would happen because we're pretty good about making sure we know what the environment is. But every once in a while, you could be just so immersed in what you're doing that you won't realize, oh, wait, I'm drifting almost towards this no-fly area. So if let's just say that happens and you're drifting towards the no-fly zone, the software kicks in and a big warning comes up on the screen, which is not great. It's not a great thing there that your vision is blocked by this pop-up screen. It really should be something a little bit different than that. But luckily, once you kind of venture away, it kind of dissipates, goes away. But the software tells you, so you know, oh, okay, I got to get out of this area, Or we've had clients that have wanted us to go put the drone up in the city, New York City. We're like, I'm sorry, we can't. We just won't even be able to if we want to. It's just ever since, everything that's gone on 9/11 and all that stuff, it's very complicated. So it's just not worth the aggravation. I mean, you could try to apply to get permission, but it's more trouble than it's worth. So we just say, listen, we can't do it. We'd love to, but we can't. And so we make it work, and it really hasn't been an issue. It's just, you got to do your due diligence. You got to do your research and know where you're at, and you got to fly safely. And that's the most important thing. And we know that the battery life of these, they're in each of the, we have a ton of batteries for the drone, but each one for our particular drone, we know that it's got a finite amount of power. So it's got I think it's got 9 or 10 minutes, which is not a lot, of dedicated flying time. So then we know, okay, well, we got to start coming back home. And you set, obviously, as soon as you start your drone up, that's where you're at. Okay, that's going to be my home spot. So if by some chance, let's just say for the sake of argument, the battery starts to die or you lose control, let's say you lose connection, because sometimes fluke things can happen, the drone automatically at that point, the software kicks in and it goes back to the home spot. So there's a lot of really great safety features embedded into these drones. And so that is a blessing when you have situations where, you might have a connectivity issue. Sometimes that happens, it's and it's another way that you got to just be aware and know what you're doing, because anything can happen. You could not be paying attention. You could fly into a tree. I mean, these things, it's happened. We've seen videos of people using their drone and they'll go crazy. They'll hit a subject, like you're not paying attention. You're going too fast. It's just like driving a car. You learn that skill set, and then you have to do it defensively. And it's very important to do the same thing with a drone. You got to fly defensively and be aware of your surroundings. Do a quick check. Okay, I see that there's power lines here. There's trees here. So you make sure you know exactly what your zone is, and then you can fly much more confidently.
Okay. Now, so when it comes to the drones themselves, obviously you're mentioning that it has different softwares that can help kind of guide it to do what you want, right? So let's just assume most of our listeners and most of the companies, they're not going to go out and try to buy their own drone and try to do it for commercial purposes in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Now I know John mentioned that something about licensing. So what kind of hurdles do you have to go through to get the right licensing and certifications to, run drones commercially?
Yeah, it's actually not crazy difficult, or it's really just you got to do a course. Usually they have these courses at, or the test, I should say, really. Usually they have them at small airports. You can go there. You can do the thing. It's it's not crazy expensive. It's, I want to say between $100 and $200. Maybe it was like $150 to do the test.
Okay.
And then you get your permit, and then then they know, okay, so you got your certification. You know what you're doing with the drone. You've passed the test. And then obviously, then you just, you do your thing. You pay attention to the guidelines of whatever the drone is telling you to do, and you do your thing, and shouldn't have any problems. It's not that you just got to study. You got to, like any test, whether it's a drone
it's not
for a car. Yeah,
not a huge barrier to entry then. So that's
it's
interesting.
not. No, it just takes some time, practice, and then you hone that knowledge. It's still like anything.
Now, is it like now when you go to these airports? Is it like taking your driving exam? You got the written, and then you've got the actual driving. So you got to show them how to operate a drone, or is it just all written tests that you take?
Yeah, it's this just mostly was written, which was
okay,
like on a computer kind of thing, and
right.
Okay. So because you are in an airport, so you're not going to be able to put it up.
That makes sense.
But it's funny because you would think that would be a component of it,
It would make sense from you're like getting your license for driving and everything else. But
we all operate a car. We take both exams. You take a written and the driving test itself.
Yeah. Well, so what are you flying? A DJI or
so we use we're currently using a DJI Mini 2.
Okay.
What we like about that drone is that, first of all, it's an affordable pro drone. It's not really not super cheap, but it's also not on the most expensive spectrum. It's a really good professional model drone that's small. It's compact. It has a really good, a low footprint. It's a light drone. It's a safe drone. It's fairly quiet. And we love that it's able to really, you can put it in sport mode if you want to go really fast, but we don't put it. We have it at a normal level. We're not going to be racing it. So it's a really good drone for what we need it to do.
Okay.
Now we'll have to see what happens with Congress.
I was going to ask about
trying to pass this. Yeah, I mean they're trying to ban DJI, which is really they're kind of like the best right now for drones. I mean, there's other companies, obviously,
right?
But I'm hoping that
maybe just fill everybody in. Yeah, just fill everybody in a little bit so they.
Yeah. So recently there was this congressional vote on this, basically a bill to ban the use of DJI drones in our country because it's a Chinese company. The same thing that they're doing with TikTok, because the parent company is Chinese. It's all this. Saber rattling stuff. But there's a huge industry that you're going to be severely impacting by having this ban go through. So, I'm sure it's going to take time if it even does happen, but they did vote to do it. So I think it did pass the first hurdle. Okay. So I'd have to refresh my memory as to that was just the House, and now it has to go through the Senate. I don't recall if it was which one it was. I don't know if it was already gone through the House and this was the Senate vote. I'd have to go check. But regardless, this is something that could be on the horizon. Yeah. Like TikTok, what they're saying is, well, they'd have to, the Chinese parent company would have to sell TikTok to an American company or another company.
Make it an American subsidiary. Right.
Yeah, because they're worried about the surveillance, and it's like, all right, part of me can't help be cynical about it. And like, listen, TikTok is the most popular social media platform right now. People are spreading news and they are sharing information about what's going on in the government and what's going on all over the place in our country through TikTok. And part of me can't help but think that a lot of the leaders don't like that. And they'd rather ban, well, we don't want you to have this free platform that's not like Facebook that's constantly taking things down.
In control.
TikTok is a real free flow, So part of me can't help but think that, hey, you guys are maybe you're really doing this. China is the boogeyman, but really they don't want a free platform. They don't want people to be able to share information of the way that this whole page is dedicated to how senators are voting. There's things on there that track stock trades with politicians, which is crazy that they're allowed to still trade with insider knowledge. So, part of me can't help but think that there's also that element in it, because, at the end of the day, they don't want to be called out. It's kind of like, do as we say, don't do as we do, so it's, I don't know. It could be that too. But regardless, it's not great.
Yeah, I got news for them when they come with the personal safety and security argument. I'm like, by the way, all your information is already out there. Don't worry about it.
It's true. I mean, look at AT&T. Massive hack of pretty much every single customer. Now, it's just logs. It's not necessarily the contents of calls and texts yet, but that's a huge problem. Every other day we're hearing about these new hacks, and they're getting worse, and they're getting worse.
Yeah,
and most people in Congress, what are they, old? They don't understand technology. I mean, we've seen some of these hearings where they're sitting there talking to Zuckerberg or whoever, and they sound like they're complete morons because they don't even understand the basics of how a computer works in some capacities. So these are people that are trying to make decisions about what should be happening with this kind of technology. It's a joke, really.
Right.
So they're very naive if they think, like you said, that this stuff's not already out there.
So I'm going to come back to the drone question. So you're currently using the DJI model. Let's just say something like this went through. What would you guys be looking at? What kind of, have you guys even given it any contemplation what you would be replacing it with?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. We haven't really started that conversation. We've talked about this whole thing, obviously,
right.
But we haven't started a contingency plan for, okay, if they ban DJI, what are we going to go to next? And the sad part is that DJI really is the best, and at least for what we would use it for. I mean, there are very expensive drones out there that you could argue are better quality and can do a lot more.
Pricey.
Very pricey, and might not be practical for the everyday use that we have for it. Although, one industry that we'd like to get into with the drone, and there's a lot more training and certification and investment from us that we'd have to do it, would be to get into the inspecting infrastructures, bridge inspections. That's a whole other industry that uses high-tech, very expensive drones that do 3D mapping and all this kind of stuff. Now, that is not the kind of drone that we would be using to go film a demolition of a building.
So I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to say, if there's anybody listening, anybody watching, if you're an inspector or you're looking for people who are going to be able to do inspecting, reach out to Chris, and maybe he can help you out.
In the near future,
that's something we'd like to do in the next couple of years, is get into that. But like I said, we have to invest in a much higher class drone. It's a whole new skill set. There's going to be other certifications and training. Right. So we're not advertising that because we're not ready to do it. But it is on the horizon of something we definitely would like to do, because that's awesome work. I mean, anytime we can, use the drone and just put and make money using the drone, and that's all we'd be doing, it's great. You can just sit down under a tree and you got the drone up there, and you're doing all your work right there.
So let me ask you also now, from a technical standpoint, we've talked about the drone and the drone photography, videography. Sorry, are you utilizing standard post-editing software? Can you tell us a little bit what your processes are? Just a little bit. Don't have to get too
Yeah. We don't have to get into the weeds on that either. Sure. Yeah. I mean, we basically are using Adobe Premiere. Great program. I've had a long amount of experience using Adobe Premiere. My partner Chris you've been using it 3-4 years, where he was, for his whole career up until that point, all Final Cut Pro editor. And so he was so happy that when he started using Adobe Premiere, basically it's very similar in terms of interface. It's got a lot of cool features that you don't necessarily have with Premiere. Well, maybe the current Premiere has it. We're now 3-4 years out from using it, but it's really a great program. So in it, we can use incorporate footage from our regular cameras, from the drone without a problem. It's really a very good user-friendly platform, and it really allows us to simply splice everything together without any problems. And so with the drone too, is that, if you need to, you can change the quality. It can be just a standard high def 1080p. We can do 4K if we want to.
Okay.
So it's really gives us that freedom. Obviously, 4K footage takes up a lot more hard drive space.
Absolutely.
But we do offer it as kind of an add-on in some of our jobs, depending upon what the client is or who the client is and what they're looking to do.
Well, now I have a question kind of segues off of what you were mentioning, splicing together your regular camera footage with the drone. So how frequent do you usually have scenarios where you're just only capturing drone footage for the video marketing videos? And how often is it usually a combination of aerial with on ground, traditional camera, rolling? So like, for example, how much of the time is the drone footage B-roll versus like the primary video content?
Sure. I would say any of our construction / demolition projects, that is going to be 95% drone. Because first of all, that's what the client really only wants.
Right.
But also because of the safety, limitations,
right,
barring us from getting too close with our ground cameras. Okay. Unless we're using a telephoto lens, which we have used, you can't really get close enough to get the action. So we can just really get a nice wide shot from the ground. But primarily we're going to be focusing on those types of projects with just the drone. So, so that would be where mostly the drone would be used. But then there's other clients that the drone becomes only a small part of it. That can just be the B-roll. Like, for example, when we did this one thing I mentioned before for this winery, we did a lot of the outdoors was drone, but all the stuff we were doing indoors, all the stuff we were doing of their manufacturing facility and all that stuff, even on the ground in the vineyard, that was all the other cameras. So I would say that project was probably 80% traditional shooting, 20% drone.
Okay. Right.
And so the average video project or marketing project that we're doing, it's going to be mostly a traditional shooting with then a few things that are components with drone. Maybe the exterior location, get a nice drone shot. Because you can't obviously can't use the drone indoors. Even though I've seen people do it. I've seen some people use it
in
big open spaces. Yeah, just for like a quick couple shots. I'm part of a local chamber of commerce, and the guy that runs that, he's kind of an amateur drone hobbyist, videographer, kind of on the side, just to do videos for their website. And he showed me last time I was at an event. He's like, "Here, check this out." He pulls up this video he did, and it's literally just one of our events in a bigger space. And he's like, "Yeah, I just had the drone up, floating around the facility for like 10 seconds, just seeing everybody talking and stuff and mingling." I'm like, wow, okay. I probably wouldn't have risked doing that. But people have done it. I mean, we joked that we would love to be able to do it inside, but, it's not feasible.
Well, I feel like you've got, that's a whole nother topic, insurance and liability when it comes to flying a drone. I mean, it's like, like you mentioned before, kind of like driving a car, like there's certain liability that's, that comes with it, because you're right. Like, what if you hit somebody in the head? What if, what if it breaks?
I mean, that stuff happens. We had a job 2 months ago. It was a side job. It was a wedding up with the other company, but one of the drone propellers broke. Chris was able to land it, and he had to replace it on the fly. Luckily, he always has extra blades just in case, but that happens. There's been a time where we've hit a fluke thing. You hit a tree or something. Accidents can happen. Thank God, we've never hit any people. We've never injured anybody or hurt any property. So that's been great. But I've seen tons of videos of people getting hit with a drone. I mean, I saw one where a bride and groom got hit with the drone on YouTube, and the drone, sliced a little bit here, and the bride was bleeding. I mean, good God, can you imagine the liability of something like that?
Jeez.
So, we're very safe and we're very blessed. We haven't had any problems like that.
Knock on wood.
But there's people out there that want to try to get clicks. Oh, check this out, man. Look what I did with my drone. I mean, there was an awesome video. I mean, I guess it was last year, of this guy. I forget. I don't know if it was Iceland or wherever there was a volcano erupting. This guy was in the volcano with the drone. And unfortunately, it just crashed and got destroyed.
Melted.
But he was able to salvage the footage, obviously.
Okay.
So I'm like, you got some great footage, but you lost your drone. But that's what insurance is for. You put the claim in.
Is there a clause? Is there a checkbox? We do not cover you if you fly into a volcano. Or...
Well, yeah, I can't speak. Okay, yeah, so I can't speak of whether or not that guy's insurance policy covered the drone, but in most cases, something happens to your equipment that you're using, you should be able to get it replaced.
Yeah,
like I know that we had an instance where we had a job where Chris was just lost sight of what was behind him and hit a tree, and the drone got stuck in the tree briefly, and then eventually came down. And it was stuck there for like a couple of days. Luckily, the venue was close to where we live. And then eventually, in the interim period, was able to get a new drone, put the claim in and everything. And then that drone eventually did fall. But luckily, he already had the replacement. But yeah, that instance, he was able to get a new one in the period. And that's the only time that we've had to deal with a claim in terms of droning. That was just got stuck in a tree. Fluke thing.
The adventures.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if that's the worst that happens, I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's true.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you a little bit about how do you guys go about, like you said, you did a lot of cold calling during COVID and things like that.
Yeah.
But how do you guys approach your marketing from your aspect? Where do you find you guys get the best return on your investment?
Yeah, well, for me, it's been my pivot to networking that I did beginning of last year. Just joining groups, going to a lot of events, just having ongoing conversations with people that I've met, a lot of one-to-ones, building our name through those kind of conversations.
Yep.
And BNI obviously has been great.
Yep. I'm about to say, shameless plug is the BNI, right?
BNI.
There.
I mean, I've got the two most recent projects were through BNI. One was a referral internally in my group from the graphic designer, the resident graphic designer in my group. She was working on this project for this nonprofit organization, and they were looking to do a video, and she obviously then referred me, and we're in post on that. And then my other, which was amazing, was through BNI, but it was through the BNI Connect website. It wasn't through somebody in my chapter. It wasn't even through somebody in my region. I got an email from the BNI member down in Alabama. And this woman is plugged in down there. She actually started a bunch of chapters. And she works for a strategic branding and marketing firm. And they were working on a project for this company that's based up here in the East Coast, Northeast in Pennsylvania. And they are a chimney supply company who has a subsidiary company that basically runs training classes for people that work in the industry as chimney sweeps. And they travel the country teaching these courses. And so they were doing these training classes in New Jersey, about 30 minutes from where I live, not too far, in the same county, but a little bit further. And so she was looking for a video team in BNI. That was like the first place she looked.
Yeah.
And oh wow, look at this guy. He's a member of this BNI group. Of course, she probably didn't know New Jersey too well, so she just reached out to me. She goes, "It looks like you're in this area. I'm not sure. Here's what we need. We're doing training classes. Is this something that you guys do?" Yes, we've done training classes before. And then we got the job, and it was great. And it's been literally our best job so far in terms of revenue. It's been amazing and great people to work with. We did 2 days of training in this New Jersey place, which was just at a facility, one of the chimney sweeps. The guy that's one of the guys that does the training and teaches the classes. He had the class at his facility. And then it was 2 days. And then they had 2 more days a month later in Pennsylvania, right outside of Philly. So we went down there the next month and shot those classes. And now we're in post, breaking all that up into individual lessons and stuff. But the goosebumps moment of that job, which to me, it just shows that the universe is listening. And there is this connection between what we have here, what we put out, and what you get back. And I try to tell this to people all the time who don't want to believe that what we put out there comes back to us. Is that morning at BNI, it was a Tuesday, when we have our meetings, my 45-second, plug that week, I said, referral I'm looking for this week. If anybody knows anyone who's, in a position to, they have a company, they want to do training videos or whatever. I said, we haven't done training videos in a while, and that's something we're looking to actively get back into. Got home 2 hours later. I had an email from this woman down in BNI in Alabama. And I was just like, oh my God, the hair standing up on my arm. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was literally shocked for like 4 seconds. I'm like, I can't believe it. I just spoke about this. And so, I have a lot of examples of that kind of stuff in my life. Once I learned about the power of intention, the power of visualizing what you want, putting it out there, whether it's on a Post-it note, a vision board, just keeping yourself accountable to your goals daily, monthly, weekly, yearly, whatever. There's a lot there that can happen if you really are dedicated and focused and you believe in that. I've just seen it change my life in so many positive ways. And I've seen negative thoughts come back to you because oh my God, I was thinking that too much. And, I know a guy that for a while was like, oh, I think my company's laying off a lot of people. I hope they don't let me go. I hope they don't let me go. And I kept saying, listen, don't keep saying that. The more you say that, it's going to happen.
The more it's coming.
Yeah, but I'm not changing how I'm doing my job. I'm still doing my job. I said, it doesn't matter. What you put out there comes back. What happened? Sure. Got laid off. And it was because he had the biggest territory and they had to make a cut and he lost the most. And it wasn't even his fault. And I'm like, I told you it was going to happen. You kept fixating on that. And unfortunately, as my grandfather always said, you can bring a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. You can't make people believe something. They have to do it on their own.
Yeah.
So I lead by example, and I try to just live by that and share my experience with others. And if they want to take something away from that, great. But, again, it's up to them. But I see it every day, and I'm in tune with it, And so this job was just another reminder that there's more going on in this world than we think. Energy is a thing. I mean, we're all made of energy, And so I really do believe in the power of suggestion and intention and all that stuff.
So one of the things that I love about it is just like that example that you mentioned, like, well, I'm looking for this, right? Just the structure of BNI and the things that they train you on, that is like, one of the things they teach you when you do the commercials for BNI is you present yourself, present the topic, say what you're looking for, and then give your call to action. And it's just a perfect setup in a way of doing exactly what you're talking about, like kind of like putting into the ether, or whatever you want to call it, your intentions and the energy that you want to receive. And it actually works.
Yeah.
But then again, it's like half of it is like if you don't vocalize or write it down or take steps, like if you don't create energy, it'll never come back towards you,
exactly.
In that same sense. So it's interesting. In BNI, like that's how we met, obviously, right?
Totally.
We're Jar and I both are BNIers. So I like to call it just jesting. I like to call it a cult, a business cult. But BNI don't sue me. This is a joke. I love BNI. Nothing negative.
You're not going to get a cease and desist from.
We're saying it in a positive manner, not in a negative.
Is it a positive? Because it's one of those things. It's like you see somebody off the street and you find out that they're in BNI. It's like it just opens up opportunity because like they're willing to give you the time of day. Where if you didn't have that in common, they wouldn't even look at you sometimes. Right. So BNI is an amazing tool. So I'm glad that you get your value out of it. Now, kind of going back to the drone and the videography and everything else. So let's say if somebody is trying to do some of their own work, let's say a builder or let's say a roofer buys their own drone and they decide to try to do some things. Do you have any like healthy tips for like how do you plan shots? How do you plan like the action pieces that you want normally on a video? Like what's that creative process? Because like I doubt it's just like you show up and you just like throw it up in the air and just kind of like wing it, right? Well, pun intended. It's it's got to be more of a process to the planning. Am I right, or do you
Yeah, I
just go
mean,
out there and just do it?
well, it's kind of a mixture of both, depending
Okay.
upon what the particular job is. If it's something where the developer or the business owner, whoever it is that is bringing you on to do this as a professional drone
Right.
operator, they might not know exactly what they want. They just know they want this process covered with a drone. So there's a way where we're approaching it as, okay, photojournalistic. We're going to come in there. We're going to get things as they happen. That's how we
Okay.
approach our live event company. That's how we approach a lot of things. Is, first of all, we're going to capture it in the most unobtrusive way that we can.
Right.
So we're approaching it with truth, as you can say, But then once we're up there and we're seeing lay of the land, getting an idea of how the job is being done, whether it's we're taking down a smokestack, we're just knocking down a building, or we're at a facility like a winery and we're going to cover their orchard. We're going to say, okay, well, let's piece this together. Think like we have this cinematic approach to our company, and okay, well, what first we got? Okay, well, we got to first start with we want to get a really great establishing shot, so that's where we go wide, and then we zoom, then we zoom across an orchard, and let's say the next focus after we've covered the grounds is now we want to move in and get smaller, and then we're going to go into the building, and that's where we go in there with our hand cameras. So we go from a wide, then we kind of zoom in, and then we're getting the exterior of the building. So maybe we do like a little pan around, maybe a circular kind of thing, or we go close, and then we slowly pull back, revealing more of it. We kind of piece it together like a puzzle in terms of capturing the flow that makes sense visually. Okay, we go from big, then we go smaller, then we go micro, then we're inside, And so there is a strategic approach to putting the pieces of the puzzle together in terms of the shots we get, and then we try to vary it too. It's not just about getting, okay, this is our one wide shot. We're going to do a couple variations. We'll get one where we're going inwards, then we'll get one when we're coming out, then we'll do a wide one when we're panning. Maybe we'll do one where what's cool is that you can do a zoom in with the camera as you're backing the drone out backwards, and you're getting that, like we like to call it the Spielberg Jaws shot from the movie Jaws, where they show Roy Scheider. He's at the edge of the beach, and it looks, that famous shot where the camera's moving in, the zoom is going in, but the camera's moving back. It's a shot that's been used so many times ever since. But Spielberg, I believe, was the first or one of the first people to really utilize it in the way that he did. And so we've done those kind of shots too, to kind of just get a nice variety of footage that is exciting and interesting for the viewer. So,
so there's technique to it as well. Not just planning, but there's not only just planning, but there's some technique and
there is
like understanding film composure and the types of shots, like panning and everything else. Okay,
and there is and there's also, like you said, a technique to learning how to do those types of shots within the drone itself. Just knowing how to maneuver a certain way to get the end approach. It's like a video game. You learn how to do the special moves or whatever, But then for somebody, like you said, who's maybe wants to do, let's say it's
themselves,
DIY. A lot of roofing companies actually are now doing their own drone. They have a guy they have their own internal guy that does that. So, that's an industry that's been a little harder for us to kind of tap into, because a lot of the roofers do it themselves. Yeah. So, but they have to approach it the same kind of way, and again, I don't know for sure how many of them actually take the time to strategically plan their shots. They might just go up there and just, okay, we're getting it here, and I'll go here. I would argue that I would say a lot of those might not be the most creative shots.
Right.
But, there are going to be people that are not creative people, so to speak, that, let's say I'm a roofer by trade, but he also kind of has an affinity for using the drone, and he might become a very good drone operator because of necessity.
Yeah.
And he might find that he has this creative bug within him or her, So I don't want to generalize and say, well, if you're a roofer, that you're not going to know how to do a drone properly, because that's not true.
Well,
people have other talents. They might just not realize
hobbies,
it,
Yeah. Right.
So that's one of those things that it's going to be on a case-to-case basis of how well somebody is able to, harness the power of the drone, if they're trying to do it themselves.
Well, yeah, and I think it comes down to kind of the level of quality that you're going to be able to get yourself
Yeah.
with limited skill sets and knowledge, understanding.
Mhm.
Because one thing is just to understand how to fly the drone, right? Most people can usually figure it out, right?
Sure.
But another thing is to understand, like, how do you take a good shot? How do you, like, how do you make it maneuver the way that you need it to for the
Yeah.
particular shot that would be ideal for your videos? So I guess that's where, anybody that's listening out there, you could be a DIYer and that's perfectly fine. But I feel that although you might be able to accomplish in general terms what you're looking for by doing it yourself,
Hmm.
I don't think you'll ever capture the same quality level and I guess, artistic approach to the craft unless you have like a background like Chris,
Yeah.
because understanding framing, understanding the techniques, everything else,
Hmm.
because that makes a huge difference in cinematography and putting together your final, video and everything else and combining it with other aspects. So, if you're listening out there, although you could save a buck, you might not get what you're looking for out of it, and you might find it a lot harder than you think it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you
Yeah,
said, the composition, as they say in
yeah,
film language, the mise en scene, which is how you put
exactly.
everything together, how you compose all your stuff.
Mhm.
It's funny you bring that, and I don't mean to cut you off, Jaron. I just want to
No,
mention this
no,
one point because
no.
I have an ongoing text thread with a bunch of colleagues,
Mhm.
my partner and I, and a couple other people, and one of them about a week or two ago sent a link to our chat. So there is a young up and coming videography company that is offering this service where it's okay, send us all the pictures and video that your guests have done at your wedding, and we'll just
Mhm.
edit it together professionally for you.
Okay.
We're not doing any filming, we're just compiling what
Mhm.
you have sent us. But as an add-on, if you want, you can hire us to come out and film your wedding for you. And we were immediately, our reaction is, I mean, you're going to get so much crap. And as the wedding goes on, that footage is going to get worse as people get
Drunk.
progressively drunk. And I'm just like, I mean, how many of those weddings are actually going to have really good quality footage? So you're really sifting through a lot of dreck to get those little,
Mhm.
quality shots. And we're just like, that's not an area that somebody's going to want to cut corners for their wedding. But people do it, and there are a lot of companies that are now offering photo and video and trying to undercut all the photographers and videographers out there because, well, people are, struggling and they're trying to find ways to have their wedding and not break the bank. But, they're spending 80% of their budget is going to be on the venue, which charges a fortune. I mean,
Oh
just to
yeah.
give you an idea, one of the top wedding venues in New Jersey, northern New Jersey, we just found out like through the busy season, like a Saturday within season, they're charging well over $600 a plate. So if
Oof.
you're doing that, you're you're going to be cutting corners elsewhere. You might as well just spring on the photographer and video because it's a flash in the pan compared to what you're spending there. And so, when I got married, I told my wife, I'm not spending a fortune on my wedding. We really had a
Mhm.
nice, low key, just like, dinner party. We had a nice ceremony at a black box theater. I made a film for the wedding and it was great. And I didn't have to spend a fortune, and I had
Mhm.
and I put it towards a nice honeymoon, which was more important to us anyway.
Right.
Right.
But I'm sorry, Yara, what were you going to say before I threw
No,
that in there?
I was going to allude to what you were saying. I mean, videography or drone photography is videography. From the world of the cinematography, you've got all these. I don't want to even ask you how many years of experience you have with all your knowledge, experience, and you bring that all to life with your, and your experience when you're handling your tool of your craft. That is
Yeah,
your
Yeah.
that's your paintbrush. And
sure.
like you said, the roofer, he's a roofer. And I'm not going to knock a roofer because they are fantastic at what they do. And yeah,
Totally.
they
I
may have
couldn't do that.
right, and they have a hobby, right, and they have a hobby, and they know how to handle a drone, and
Totally.
that's wonderful. But you spend the predominant part of your day either
Doing this.
actively doing your craft or attending to your craft in the subsidiary
Mhm.
because it
Totally.
is your craft. and
Yeah.
and that's what and that's what I think a lot of people, when it comes to the creative world, don't always connect when they go, well, I can call my cousin and he'll make me a website, and or I'll call my neighbor and he'll come and use his drone. Yeah, you can do that, but there's a difference of quality, a different,
Yeah.
all the experience, the knowledge, the background, everything that you have that you bring to bear to the client at that moment. They're not just hiring Chris and Chris. They're hiring Chris and Chris and every project that you have done to date
It's
and all
true.
that experience.
Which is a perfect segue because we are approaching the hour. So, which is a perfect segue because Chris, I can tell by the way that you talk about all the different projects. You're very passionate. You really like to take good care of your clients. So, it would be a travesty if we didn't allow you to give yourself a nice shameless plug here. So, before we wrap up, I want to give you the opportunity to go ahead and tell our listeners how they can get in contact with you. Things like your website, your email address, phone number. So if they're listening, they can reach out to you if they're in your area, or if they want to, send you on a trip, pay for the hotel and everything, airline tickets, bring you
Yeah.
out. But how can they get in touch with you? What are your details there?
Yeah, sure. Appreciate the opportunity to do that. Yeah, so to me, I'd say the first step, just check out our website. It's firelightdigital.com. Pretty simple. All of our contact info is on there. Our phone number, email on there too. It's right on the main page, and the email address on the site is directly to me because I manage the whole business. But I mean, I can mention my email address. I don't care. It's Chris P, as in Paul, Chris P at firelightdigital.com. Pretty simple. Our phone number's on our website. I'm not really into mentioning my phone number too much, but it's on there. And yeah, I mean, we're full service video production. We handle small to medium sized companies. That's kind of our sweet spot. I don't get too much into the bigger corporations because there's always too many cooks in the kitchen. However, if somebody has a contact within a bigger organization, and that would be a great person for us to reach out to, or if they want to reach out to us and they want to use another company that's, in northern New Jersey, because that's where we're based. We're here. We're willing to talk. And then, like you had kind of hinted at, we have traveled pretty much within our region, Pennsylvania, things like that. But if there's a company, New Mexico or California or Michigan, whatever, that really likes our work and wants us to work with them and has the ability to cover our travel and all that kind of stuff, we're open to that. The country is a huge market, and even though there are regional companies, obviously everywhere you go, they can do the same kind of work. Every company does things differently. Our calling card, as you said, is our expertise. Everything we bring into the table from a collective, 35 plus years of collective experience,
Right.
and a craft and a cinematic vision. So this is what we are doing. This is how we would service your company. Just like every story has ever been told before, but it's how this author or this writer tells that story.
Mm-hmm.
We'll produce your marketing your marketing materials in our way that maybe a local company might not be able to do. And so there is a conversation to be had if somebody's interested in bringing us out from wherever they are, to do a job for them. We're willing to talk as long as the numbers make sense, because obviously we're business and it has to make sense. But we're open to working with whoever's interested. And again, we work with all different types of industries too. So we're not just pigeonholed. So firelightdigital.com is our site. We have a portfolio on there. You can check out our work. We even have a page that has just kind of an outline of how we charge. We have a couple, I think it's 3 different packages on our website that you can look at just to give you an idea of how we would put together numbers for we have basically 3 packages. Each one kind of expands on the other as a jumping off point, because no job is going to be the same. And there's no one, package that I would say would work with every company. So we like to use this. Hey, here's a jumping off point of what we have offered. We can make a bespoke, as they say, package just for this company's needs as well. So we're very flexible on pricing too, and competitively priced. So
Nice.
we definitely have the ability to work with people if they have certain budgets. Again, assuming it makes sense, we're definitely flexible as well.
All right. Well,
All right.
Thank you so much, Chris, for your time today and sharing your insights into not only videography, but specifically aerial drone videography, because that's something that not everybody usually covers when it comes to marketing and what kind of industries and everything that's relevant to. So, we definitely learned quite a bit with you today. So we appreciate your time, and
Thank you.
thanks again.
My pleasure,
Yeah.
guys. This was a lot of fun. I'm happy to be able to talk with you guys, share some experience, and answer questions. And this is a little great little chat. So
Yeah.
again, I appreciate you guys finding me. Obviously you guys found me on BNI's Connect website. So thank you so much for reaching out, and I look forward to seeing this whenever it's finished.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Been a pleasure speaking with
Pleasure
you.
here too, guys. You have a great rest of your week.
You
right,
too.
Just
And
stick
I'm gonna
around,
run my
and that's it. Yeah, just stick
sounds
around,
good.
and then we'll talk a little bit more after the recording, okay?
All right, sounds great. Thanks.